Today we'll discuss two New York Islanders who have quietly been a big reason that the team has improved their play recently. Plus, an injured Islander returns to practice, and we have a full preview of tonight's game against the Buffalo Sabres. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thanks for being part of the Locked On Islanders family and for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We have got a lot to get to on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email, the email address lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we are happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis. And hey, it's always great to interact with Islander fans, game time or anytime. So just reach out, email, certainly on Twitter, or you can make a comment or send a message on our YouTube page. So all of those options on the table. Wanted to start today's show off by discussing two players who may not be making a lot of headlines right now, but who are definitely a reason for the Islanders' improved play recently. And I think, the last dozen games or so, I think the Islanders are now, 7-3-3 in their last 13. They really have been more consistent in their play. And these two players, I think, have made a difference, even though they may not be making headlines. The first one is defenseman Adam Pelech. And, Pelech missed a lot of time earlier in the season, was injured back on December 6th, did not return until January 23rd. So he missed 21 games in between that time. And the Islanders really, struggled a little bit without him. The depth on defense, not what it maybe needs to be in the organization. And let's face it, when he came back on January 23rd, Adam Pelech was not playing at his usual high level. Now, when you miss 21 games and roughly 7 weeks of action, it's going to take you some time to get back into game shape, both physically and mentally. And we definitely saw the difference in Pelech's play. Here's a quote from Pelech, courtesy of The Athletic. "The first few games were kind of a wake-up call. It was just difficult to get back accustomed to the speed of the game, processing, stuff like that, which I didn't really expect. It was my first time dealing with a concussion. Luckily, I'm feeling much better now. It just took a few weeks. I was just kind of trying to keep up with the game. I wasn't always in the right spot and making the right reads, but I think the main thing was feeling like I'm a step behind, a second behind, not breaking up plays like I typically am, or just a couple of feet from where I need to be defensively. The last 4 or 5 games, I've really gotten back to where I want to be." And by the way, the Islanders have done very well over those last 4 or 5 games. And, you look at the last 5 games for the New York Islanders, and you go, they gave up 1 goal against Winnipeg at home. gave up 3 goals to the LA Kings, shut out Winnipeg in Winnipeg, gave up only 1 goal to Minnesota, although they lost 2-1 in a shootout. You don't count that shootout goal, and then gave up 1 goal against Detroit. So in the last 5 games, they've given up 6 goals. And you give up 6 goals in 5 games, you're going to win most of them. So, the fact that 3 of them were in 1 game and the Islanders only scored twice, yeah, that cost them against LA. But overall, just a very, very strong performance. And having Pelech, one of the team's top 2 defensemen, back to what he's been doing, back to the level he's accustomed to playing on, really, really helps. And when you think that he's playing 20, 22 plus minutes a night, it really helps. Here's what Lane Lambert had to say about Pelech recently. I've seen him moving the puck a lot quicker, recognizing things a little bit sooner, which helps. I thought there were times he was having a little bit of trouble. It wasn't all the time, but when he did have trouble, there was that little split-second delay, and that comes with getting up to game speed. And think about it. Think about the fact that hockey is such a fast-paced game that even being a second or 2 late, a half second, in fact, too late can be too much. And that often makes the difference between clearing the puck out of the zone or tying up an offensive player who's trying to get into the zone with speed, or beating somebody to a rebound or to a loose puck, or picking them up as they're skating through the neutral zone. Having Adam Pelech back and playing at the level that he usually is accustomed to has been a big difference maker for the New York Islanders. And I think, it really, really helps, because we know this team defensively, having Adam Pelech and Ryan Pollock playing well, whether they're a pair or whether you split them up, those are your shut-down defensemen. And it is hard to play that defense-first style, that what in the last 4 or 5 years has really been Islanders hockey, for lack of a better way to put it, when you don't have your shutdown defenseman playing at a high enough level. And, we know that Noah Dobson and Sebastian Aho often struggle in their own zone. But if you add a third player, who usually is sort of one of your rocks, if he's struggling in his own zone, that takes it to a whole different level. We saw that inconsistency. We saw those defensive breakdowns. And thankfully, we aren't seeing them anymore, and that really makes a big difference for the New York Islanders on a game-in and game-out basis. And so we're seeing fewer quality scoring chances, and that makes things so much easier for both Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov. And we've talked about the number of high-danger scoring chances. It's way down. And that makes a big difference for this New York Islanders team. And we're seeing the results on the ice and in the standings. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We'll talk about a player who has returned to practice, plus another Islanders player who isn't making headlines but is contributing mightily to the team's success. And we'll preview tonight's game against the Buffalo Sabres, a big game indeed. We've got all that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers to threes drained. And hey, you could even use your knowledge of the New York Islanders at FanDuel. Check out the latest odds on the app. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast newsletter. Hey, Islanders fans, are you looking for the best hockey newsletter on the internet? Well, look no further. The Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast newsletter is the best newsletter for any hockey fan, whether it's talking about the history of hockey, hockey video games, or how to improve your game. You'll find all that and more in this newsletter. Also, if you like the newsletter, be sure to check out the main podcast available on Spotify. Log on to rothsteina.substack.com. That's ROTHSTEINA.substack.com. Hope to see you there. So another player who really is shining for the Islanders right now, but not making a lot of headlines, that's Hudson Fasching. And, Fasching has had his best season in the NHL so far this year. And you look at the numbers, and they don't make you go, wow. 32 games in the NHL after playing 18 earlier this season with Bridgeport. 3 goals, 8 points, 8 penalty minutes, A+4. Solid numbers, but not the kind of numbers that sort of bowl you over. And yet, when you think about it, Hudson Fasching has added a lot to the Islanders' bottom 6 since he has been a regular part of the lineup. And with Cal Clutterbuck out, you've seen Hudson Fasching team up with Casey Cizikas and Matt Martin on the team's 3rd or 4th line, depending on the circumstances. But he really has been playing well. He's got the size at 6'3", about 205 pounds, and he really is a smart hockey player. He knows how to protect the puck. He wins battles, 50-50 battles for pucks. He forechecks very well. He's responsible defensively and back checks very well, and that helps make him extremely effective. Here's what Lane Lambert said after the win over the Red Wings the other day. He uses his body and he can skate. And when I say use his body, he protects the puck. He finds a way to get leverage. And what you do with that, and what he does with that, is he turns it into strength and strength on the puck. So there's no question he's playing well, and he needs to continue to do that. And Fasching right now, one other thing about him, leading up to the trade deadline, we talked about Scott Mayfield is going to be an unrestricted free agent. We talked about Semyon Varlamov. We talked about Zach Parise. But another player who is going to be an unrestricted free agent is Hudson Fasching. And he's playing right now, when he's in the NHL, on the league minimum, $750,000. And he was asked whether or not he wanted to sign an extension, and he said 100%. This organization has been incredibly good to me. It's been a great year for me. They've given me a really big opportunity, and I've really enjoyed myself here. The people are great. The organization is great. My wife and I are very happy here. So, yeah, definitely be happy signing an extension. And, if the Islanders could sign him to a 2, maybe 3-year deal at about $1 million a year, that probably works best. And it would be a little bit more than the minimum, but not a huge cap hit or commitment. And the Islanders would get a smart, consistent player who really seems to have his head in the game and knows how to play that bottom 6 role extremely well. So hopefully the Islanders can work out something with Hudson Fasching, but he really has been a great addition to the Islanders lineup. And, he does the little things right, and that's what you need from your bottom 6 forwards. And okay, 8 points, not going to be a lot, but 12 blocked shots. And, he's averaging a little more than a shot on goal per game and 37 hits. So he's not afraid to mix it up along the boards, win those battles. I like what I've seen so far from Hudson Fasching, and I hope he will be an Islander beyond this year if he continues to be consistent like he has been throughout the season. Meanwhile, Monday's practice notable because J.G. Pageau returned to practice for the first time since he was placed on the injured reserve. He's missed 9 games thus far. Whether or not he'll be ready to play tonight against the Sabres remains to be seen. Lane Lambert, after practice on Monday, said, "I thought he looked pretty good. We'll have to evaluate. It was only his first practice back with the team." Pageau has 10 goals, 29 points in 56 games so far this season. But here's the thing you get with J.G. Pageau. Pageau can kill penalties, and the Islanders certainly have missed him on the PK at times. He's great in the faceoff circle, and he can add something to the number 2 power play unit. So you put together 3 centers like Bo Horvat, Casey Cizikas, and J.G. Pageau, all of whom are much better than 50% on faceoff, 53, 55, 56%. You do that, you're creating more scoring chances in the offensive zone, taking away more scoring chances in the defensive zone, and making things easier on your team and your goalie. So certainly J.G. Pageau adds something to this lineup. I hope he'll be ready to go tonight against Buffalo. It still remains to be seen whether or not he will, but realistically, just the idea that Pageau is getting closer to returning really is helpful. And I would have to say that if J.G. Pageau returns to the lineup, the guy most likely to sit, probably Otto Koivula. He played his best game against Detroit Saturday afternoon, picked up his first assist with the team this year, 1 assist in 6 games. But look, if you told me you could either play J.G. Pageau or Otto Koivula in any given game, I'm going with Pageau 9 times out of 10. And look, again, it'll take J.G. Pageau a little bit of time to get back to his old self, but probably not as much time as it took Adam Pelech. First of all, wasn't a concussion when it comes to J.G. Pageau, but 9 games as opposed to 20 plus games. You're not out as long, and it won't take as long, hopefully, to get back into the swing of things. So J.G. Pageau getting closer to his return, and that is good news for the New York Islanders. We've got more to discuss on today's episode. We'll preview a very important game coming up tonight against the Buffalo Sabres, another team that is battling the Islanders for a wild card spot. And we have our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product I literally use every day, and I started taking AG1 because I wanted one supplement that would take care of all of my nutritional needs. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens, and that'll help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All these things. And it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So the Islanders and the Buffalo Sabres going at it tonight at UBS Arena. Again, it's a 7:30 Eastern time start, but it's an ESPN Plus game, so make sure you figure out how to best watch the game there. Buffalo, by the way, is going to be playing a back-to-back. They lost in regulation to the Edmonton Oilers on Monday, so they're going to fly down from Buffalo to Long Island and face the Islanders on a back-to-back. Islanders have been resting since they finished their game late on Saturday afternoon. Offense is the name of the game for the Buffalo Sabres. They're third in the league in goals scored, 24th, though, in goals against. Now, Craig Anderson was the goalie against Edmonton, so we will likely see Eric Comrie in the second game of the back-to-back, and there is a big difference statistically between the two. Anderson, a .277 goals against average and a .918 save percentage. Comrie, a 3.56 goals against average and an .885 save percentage. So it certainly would benefit the Islanders to face Comrie. Whether they'll go to Anderson in back-to-back games, well, that remains to be seen. Special teams will be important in this game. The Sabres power play, fourth in the league. They cash in a little more than 25% of the time. Tage Thompson, who leads the team with 42 goals and 82 points through 61 games. He has 18 power play goals and 30 power play points, and also tied for the team lead with 6 game-winning goals. But the PK for Buffalo, 31st in the league. Now, I know the Islanders' power play is struggling. They are ranked 29th in the league right now. But boy, wouldn't it be great to get a little more going on the power play. And here you are facing one of the worst teams on the PK in the league. Islanders need to take advantage. Other players, by the way, to look out for on the power play. Rasmus Dahlin, he is the power play quarterback, 23 assists, 5 goals with the extra attacker. Jeff Skinner, 7 goals, 10 assists. And Victor Olofsson has 5 goals on the power play. We'll look at the line combinations for the Sabres. Tage Thompson, Jeff Skinner, and Jack Quinn are the top trio. Dylan Cousins centers the second line with Casey Middlestott to his left and Vinny Hinostroza to his right. Peyton Krebs is the third line pivot with John Jason Paterka and Victor Olofsson on either side of him. And the fourth line from left to right, Jordan Greenway, Zegmas Girgensons, and ex-Islander Kyle Oposo. On defense, Rasmus Dahlin, always dangerous. Cal Clegg is his partner. The middle pair, Owen Power and Henri Jokiharju. And then Jacob Bryson and Ilya Lyubushkin are the third pairing. The goaltenders, as we mentioned, Eric Comrie and Craig Anderson. And Anderson played last night against Edmonton. So those are the lineups. Injured players, and there are a few. Alex Tuck on IR. He's not almost certainly going to be available. Riley Stillman, Matthias Samuelsson, and Tyson Jost, each listed as day-to-day. So we have to see if any of them will be available against the Islanders tonight. Huge game for the Islanders. Absolutely vital. You pick up 2 points in this one. Just to give you an idea, after 62 games, the Sabres have 68 points. The Islanders, meanwhile, have 4 more points, but they've played 65 games. So you pick up 2 points, win in regulation, you're putting the Sabres a little further in the rearview mirror. If the Sabres win, those games in hand start to loom larger, and they pull to within 2 points of the Islanders. So that is going to be a big key. And again, ESPN Plus for this game. So hopefully you can find a way to watch it. And the Islanders really do need to come up big in this one. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 80th birthday of former Islanders forward Bill McMillan, the Charlottetown PEI native, made his NHL debut with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 1970-71 season, scored 22 goals for them that year, had 41 points. But then after 2 seasons in Toronto, was an original member of the Atlanta Flames in 72-73, and then joined the Islanders in 73-74. Stayed with the team through the 76-77 season. Spent 1 year in the minors in the Central Hockey League with the Fort Worth Texans before hanging up his skates after the 77-78 campaign. For his career, 446 games, 74 goals, 151 points, 184 penalty minutes. He was a big part of the Islanders' big playoff run in 74-75, played in 17 games for them. And then the following year had 4 goals and 6 points in 13 playoff games in 75-76. Later went on to coach in the NHL, was an assistant with the Islanders in 79-80 when they won their first cup, and was the head coach of the Colorado Rockies. And then when they moved to become the New Jersey Devils, he was the head coach there. So didn't have all that much success. If you remember the Colorado Rockies and the early New Jersey Devils teams, they struggled. His best game as an Islander, not tough to figure out, October 28th, 1974. Islanders hosting the old California Golden Seals at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And basically, Bill McMillan had 3 goals and an assist, a 4.90. He was a +4, had those 3 goals on just 4 shots. And yeah, the Islanders crushed the Seals by a score of 10-1. Gary the Cobra Simmons letting in the first 9 goals of the game before being relieved by Gil Martin. But a big hat trick in that game for Billy McMillan. Now, McMillan ended up with 2 hat tricks in his career. This was the second. His earlier one came with Toronto in 1971-72. So happy 80th birthday to Billy McMillan, former Islanders forward and assistant coach. He is our Islanders birthday of the day. Want to thank everyone again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. Now make your second listen game-to-game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game-to-Game covers every contest from across the National Hockey League with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game-to-Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back tomorrow. We'll have our key takeaways from this very important game against Buffalo, plus our weekly farm report and the latest injury news and updates. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, stay safe, everyone. Have a great day. And of course, let's go Islanders.